She was my landlady, and breaking her rules felt impossibly right. I didn't plan on falling for the woman who handed me my apartment keys with a distracted smile and a chipped coffee mug in her other hand. But then again, nothing about her felt like something a person could plan for. I first saw her on a Tuesday morning, the kind where the sky looks too pale and the air feels like it forgot to warm up. I've been dragging my suitcase up the narrow staircase, muttering at the broken handle, when her door opened with a soft click. She stepped out, mid-40s, hair tied loosely like she'd done it while half asleep. She didn't look at me at first. She looked at the floor, then the railing, then finally at me, as if solving an equation before speaking. "You must be the new tenant," she said. Her voice had this gentle roughness, like she'd been laughing earlier or hadn't slept enough. "Yeah," I answered, trying to straighten my shirt without making it obvious. "Room 3B. She nodded once, almost too quickly, and motioned for me to follow her. I couldn't tell if she was avoiding my eyes or if I was imagining it. Maybe both. Her apartment door stayed half open behind her, letting out a warm smell, coffee, cinnamon, something faintly sweet. I tried not to look, but the glimpse was enough. A lamp left on, a sweater thrown over a chair, a book face down on the couch. A life lived softly. She walked ahead of me, keys clicking in her hand, her steps careful. I kept my distance, but not too much. Something about her made me want to pay attention, not in a dramatic way, but like you'd listen closely to a song you didn't expect to like. When she unlocked my door, she hesitated. Just a breath, barely a second, but enough to feel like she was about to say something different. Instead, she handed me the keys. "There are rules," she said, and her voice dipped on that last word, like she didn't fully trust it. "Quiet after 10. No parties. If anything breaks, tell me. Don't try fixing things yourself." "Got it," I said, smiling because she looked so serious, like I was about to commit crimes against plumbing. She didn't smile back. Not fully, but the corner of her mouth lifted for a moment, quick, almost embarrassed, and then vanished. I don't know why that tiny half-smile stayed with me all day. Later, after I unpacked, I heard her downstairs. Not clearly, just the muted shift of someone moving around a kitchen. Footsteps, a spoon tapping against a mug, a soft exhale, maybe frustration, maybe relief. The kind of sound you're not supposed to listen to. I tried to ignore it, try to distract myself by setting up my desk, my books, my cheap lamp. But every time the floor creaked, I found myself pausing. And then there was the thing that changed everything. Around sunset, while I was trying to fix the crooked window latch, there was a knock on my door, 3 soft taps, the kind someone does when they're not sure if they should be knocking at all. I opened it to find her standing there again. Same messy hair, same serious eyes, different energy. She looked almost nervous. She started, then shook her head and tried again. "I wanted to check if you settled in. That's all." But her gaze slid past me into my room, lingering a moment too long on nothing in particular. My jacket on the chair, the open suitcase I hadn't finished, the soft light from the lamp. She swallowed, as if she'd said more than she meant to. "Everything's fine," I said, my voice lower than I expected. "Really?" She nodded, but she didn't leave. Not immediately. Her fingers brushed the doorframe. Lightly, almost like she needed the support. "I shouldn't bother you," she whispered. "You're not." That made her look at me, finally, directly, and something flickered in her eyes. Not obvious, not dramatic. Something quieter, the kind of feeling that knows it shouldn't exist, but does anyway. She opened her mouth to say what? I'll never know, because at that exact moment, her phone buzzed sharply in her pocket. She stiffened, looked at the screen, and the color in her face changed. She looked back at me, eyes uncertain, like she didn't know whether to stay, turn around, or explain anything at all. "Sorry," she murmured, stepping back. I have to." She didn't finish the sentence. She just turned away, walking quickly down the hall, and the door between us closed too softly to feel final, but not softly enough to feel harmless. The next morning, I tried pretending nothing about last night stayed with me. That her half-finished sentence, the way she'd stepped back like the hallway was suddenly too narrow, wasn't sitting in my head like a weight that refused to move. But pretending only works until you see the person again. I didn't mean to run into her so early. I'd gone downstairs to check the mail, half asleep, hair still a mess. The lobby light was dim, buzzing faintly, and when I rounded the corner, she was already there, leaning against the row of mailboxes with a letter in her hand. She didn't hear me at first. Her shoulders were tense, fingers gripping the envelope like she wasn't sure whether to open it or tear it up. When she finally noticed me, she straightened too fast, the letter folding slightly in her hand. "Oh," she said, a breath more than a word. "You're up early." "So are you," I said. Her eyes flicked away, like I'd caught something I wasn't meant to. She slipped the letter inside her pocket. Couldn't sleep. I didn't ask why. Something about the way she said it told me she wouldn't have answered anyway. We walked up the staircase together, not side by side, but close enough that I could hear her breathing, feel her hesitation in the way she slowed her steps near the landing. "You know," she said quietly, "I used to rent this place only to older tenants. Safer that way. Simpler. Safer how?" She didn't smile. She kept her eyes on the steps. Less complicated. I didn't know what to say to that. So neither of us talked for a moment. The hallway was narrow. Her sweater brushed my arm once, barely. She didn't pull away, but she didn't do it again either. When we reached my door, she stopped, almost like she'd walked here by accident. "Can I ask something?" she said. "Anything. Why move here? You're young. You could have found livelier places." "Livelier?" "Younger," she meant. I let her have the softer word. "My last place was crowded." I paused. "And loud." "Roommates?" "Yeah. Friends who I wasn't exactly close with anymore. People who had someone to go home to. Someone waiting. Someone calling." She nodded like she understood more than I'd said. "I live with someone too," she said softly. I didn't breathe. "A long time," she added. But it didn't stay right. Her voice was tight, almost brittle. She wasn't wearing a ring. But the tan line was faint, barely there, like something she'd taken off not too long ago. So she was married. Or had been. And for some reason, saying nothing felt kinder than asking. When we opened our doors, hers across from mine, we paused the same second. Like both of us realized the doors were too close, the silence too aware. She lowered her gaze. I swallowed, and neither of us moved. Then she reached forward, hesitant, slow, and brushed a piece of lint off my shoulder. Something so small, so unnecessary, it felt louder than any touch I'd ever felt. Her fingers lingered a second too long. She seemed to realize it at the same time I did. Her breath caught. She pulled her hand back fast, almost stumbling into her own doorway. Sorry," she whispered. "Force of habit." "From who?" I asked. She didn't answer. Just looked at me. Really looked, like she was weighing a truth she couldn't let out. Her lips parted. A thought, a confession, something unguarded, but then her phone buzzed again. That same urgent tone. She turned away, voice low, almost breaking. I didn't think this would get complicated. And she closed her door. But her touch stayed on my shoulder long after. It started with a knock I wasn't expecting. Not her this time. "Hey man, you got a minute?" My roommate's voice came through the doorway. I tried to sound casual. "Sure." He stepped in, grinning like he knew something I didn't. "So, your landlady. She's different, huh?" I froze. Different. That was one word for it. Dangerous, irresistible, complicated. Those words were closer to the truth, but I said nothing. "She mentioned you moved in last night. Thought I'd come say hi." I nodded, letting him ramble, feeling my mind drift to her instead. The way she'd touched my shoulder yesterday, so tiny, so soft, it felt like it had branded me. Later that evening, I had to return a book to her apartment, something I'd borrowed accidentally from the shelf in the lobby. She answered the door immediately, and for a second, I felt like the air between us had thickened. Her hair fell over one shoulder, soft in the dim light of the hallway. Her eyes met mine, sharp and unreadable. "I didn't expect you back so soon," she said. "Thought you might like it," I said, holding the book out. Our fingers brushed, barely, but enough that we both stiffened. Her gaze flicked down at our hands, then back to mine. "Right." She cleared her throat. "Thanks." The silence stretched. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words were heavy. My pulse thumped loud in my ears. Then she moved closer, too close, and I realized I wasn't ready to step back. Her hand almost grazed mine again. I thought she was going to lean in, her lips hovering a fraction too near, but then she flinched. "Pull back." "I shouldn't," she whispered, but didn't finish. I didn't either. A week passed, and our tension grew without words. She left letters in my mailbox, notes that seemed innocent, practical, but I knew the subtext. And then, one night, I heard voices downstairs. My heart sank as I recognized a male voice, deep, familiar, angry. Her ex-husband. I shouldn't have listened, but I did. "I warned you," he said. "Stay away from me." From her. Her reply was quieter, trembling, almost pleading. I'm done with that part of my life. I didn't hear the rest. The next day, I found her sitting on the stairwell landing, coat draped over her knees, staring at nothing. Hey, I said softly. She looked up, startled. A faint blush, maybe from the morning chill, maybe from seeing me. Mind if I sit? I asked. She shrugged, letting me slide in beside her. The stairwell smelled faintly of rain and the old wood polish she must have used earlier. We didn't speak for a long time. She was at the bottom of the stairs, holding an umbrella too small for her frame, hair plastered to her neck. I froze. Hey, I said, my voice catching even as I tried to sound casual. Her eyes flicked to mine, then away, scanning the street like she might disappear into the downpour. I thought you'd be home, I said. I had to get out, she admitted. Her hands twisted the umbrella handle. It's complicated. I nodded, because everything about her life felt complicated. Her ex, the rule she lived by, the way her gaze lingered longer than it should. And then it hit me. The little signs I'd been trying to ignore. Her ex's threats, the tension in her voice, the way she'd looked at me yesterday, almost pleading. Someone else? I asked before I could stop myself. Her lips parted, but no words came. Instead, she shivered, partly from the cold, partly from the question. Maybe I've been too cautious, she whispered. But you don't know what this means for me. Her words, so soft, lit something in my chest I couldn't contain. I stepped closer, just enough for her to feel it, not enough to cross the line we'd been circling for weeks. I don't care about complications, I said. My voice was low, steady, even though my heart pounded like a drum in my ears. I care about this. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought she might melt into the puddle at our feet. I shouldn't, she said, shaking her head. I can't. The words died as a car honked somewhere down the street. I saw her bite her lip, her hands trembling around the umbrella, fingers tightening like she was holding herself together by force. I'm scared, she admitted finally, and that broke something inside me. Not fear, not shame. Desire. Desire mixed with frustration, with longing I'd tried to bury. I reached out, hand hovering an inch from hers. She flinched slightly, but didn't pull away. Not entirely. You don't have to be, I said softly. Not with me. Her breath hitched. I could see it, the conflict, the pull between restraint and surrender. Then she laughed, short and nervous, the kind of laugh that comes when someone's about to cry. You really don't understand rules, do you? She said. I think rules are meant to be broken sometimes, I replied. Her eyes met mine fully, and I could see the storm inside her mirrored in mine. The rain fell harder. We were soaked. My sleeve brushed hers accidentally, deliberately. I didn't care. And then her phone rang. The sound sliced through the tension like a knife. She looked at it, froze, then glanced at me. Her expression was unreadable, and I could feel everything. Fear, longing, guilt, all colliding in the space between us. She didn't answer, but I knew, whatever happened next, we were teetering on the edge, and neither of us could step back without falling. I thought last night had cleared something between us. That walking home together in the rain, the electricity in every glance had shifted the rules, quietly, without words. I was wrong. It started with a knock on my door. Sharp, insistent, too early for anyone polite. When I opened it, my roommate was there, holding his phone like he'd been waiting. Dude, he said, voice tight, you need to see this. He showed me a video, grainy, from the security camera in the lobby. It was her, and someone else, someone leaning close, whispering in her ear, laughing, touching her shoulder in a way that made my stomach twist. Not me. I stumbled back, heart slamming. Who is that? He shrugged. Don't know, but it doesn't look casual. The day went sideways after that. Every text, every glance in the hallway felt loaded. My mind refused to let me think straight. I imagined him everywhere, at the mailbox, leaving her apartment, maybe even in her kitchen. I shouldn't have been jealous. I tried telling myself that, but I couldn't stop. Every time she smiled at me, my chest ached. Every time she brushed past my door, my pulse quickened. I saw her that evening in the stairwell. She was holding groceries, looking exhausted. Hey, I said softly. Her face fell, just for a fraction of a second, and then she forced a smile. You're early, she said. You look tired, I replied, maybe harsher than I meant. Everything okay? She hesitated, hands gripping the bags tighter. Yeah, just busy. Busy. That word, that tone. I felt a sudden stab of betrayal. I saw the video, I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes widened. She opened her mouth, closed it again. It's not what you think, she finally said, voice trembling. He's my brother. My stomach dropped. Relief and guilt collided. I'd assumed the worst, let my jealousy rule me, and now I felt like a fool. I started, but she held up a hand. I know, she said softly. I didn't tell you because I wasn't sure how to. And then, after last week, I thought maybe I could handle this on my own. I watched her, her eyes glimmering with something I couldn't name. Fear, hope, maybe shame. And then it hit me. The stakes weren't just her past or my jealousy. They were her boundaries, her trust, her life that I had no right to stumble into. You scared me, I whispered. I didn't mean to, she said. And for a second, the world narrowed to just us in that stairwell, the rain outside muted by the walls around us. Her fingers brushed mine as she shifted the grocery bag, accidental or deliberate. I couldn't tell. She started, voice barely audible. I don't know if I can do this right. But her words were cut off by the sharp ring of her phone again. She froze, the bag tilting in her arms. I realized something then. Whatever we felt, whatever we were trying to fight, something outside of us was still pulling the strings. And for the first time, I understood that desire alone wouldn't be enough. Not yet. We both stepped back, eyes locked, hearts racing, and the silence between us said more than either of us dared to voice. The storm wasn't over. It had only just begun. I didn't plan to follow her that night. Really, I didn't. But when I saw her leaving the lobby, coat pulled tight, hair damp from the drizzle, I felt this pull in my chest I couldn't ignore. Wait, I called. She stopped, shoulders stiff, eyes wary. You shouldn't, doesn't matter, I said, voice sharper than I meant. My heart was hammering. My hands itched to reach for hers, to do something reckless, to say what had been simmering for weeks. I can't just stay quiet anymore. She froze. That look, half fear, half longing, cut me deeper than I expected. Why now? She whispered. Because I can't wait, I said. Because every time I see you, it's impossible to pretend I don't care. And I'm done pretending. Her lips parted. She didn't speak, and in that silence, everything hung, years of caution, regret, longing, all tangled together. Do you understand the risk? She asked. I nodded, stepping closer. Yes, and I don't care. Her eyes softened, a flicker of relief mingling with uncertainty. She shook her head, almost laughing at herself. Before she could finish, the umbrella slipped from her hand in the wind. I caught it. Our hands brushed, lingering longer than necessary, longer than polite. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. I stepped closer again, my free hand just above hers, hovering, trembling. She didn't pull away. Not yet. I don't want to hurt you, she admitted, voice breaking. Then don't, I said simply. Let me stay. And that was it. The dam broke. The air between us charged. Our hands collided, fingers entwining without pretense, without hesitation. Her breath hitched, mine caught in my throat. I shouldn't, she began. You don't have to, I said. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, maybe from fear, maybe from relief. She looked at me like she was seeing someone she'd wanted to, but never let herself, for far too long. We didn't kiss. Not yet. But the space between our lips was charged, impossible to ignore. Her forehead leaned slightly toward mine, our breaths mingling, unspoken confessions in each inhale. I can't promise anything, she whispered. I don't need promises, I said. I just need you. Right now. She shivered, but she didn't step back. Her hand tightened around mine, as if anchoring herself. The street around us was empty, wet, shimmering in the lamplight. Rain drummed softly, like a muted applause for what we couldn't say, what we were about to risk. And then her phone buzzed again. She glanced at it, eyes darting, hesitation returning. The world outside us intruded. Rules, past lives, complications. She started. I squeezed her hand gently. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. Not here. Not now. Her gaze lingered on mine. 1,000 thoughts, regrets, and desires passed in that silent heartbeat. Then she exhaled, leaning slightly closer, just shy of contact, and whispered, maybe rules don't apply when you knock like that. And in that moment, everything changed. We stood there, soaked, trembling, hearts loud in our chests, aware of the risk, aware of the pull, aware that this, whatever this was only the beginning. And just like that, the choice was made. We just hadn't crossed the line yet. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving the world quiet, clean, and sharp. Street lamps reflected in puddles like tiny, trembling stars, and somewhere far off, a bird called, insistent, ordinary, alive. I wasn't sure what had changed overnight. Maybe it was the confession, the tension, or simply the fact that we hadn't run from each other. Maybe it was that we'd finally decided, in a small but irrevocable way, to risk everything. When I stepped out of my apartment, she was already there, leaning against the railing, coat wrapped around her like armor. She looked at me, and for the first time I saw it clearly, relief, hope, something that wasn't fear. "Morning," I said, voice low, careful. "Morning," she replied, and that tiny smile, the one that had haunted me for weeks, appeared fully this time. We walked together in silence at first, letting the air between us settle. No words were needed. The quiet spoke more than sentences ever could. The hallway, the stairwell, the tiny touches of hands or shoulders, they had all led here. "I was scared," she admitted finally, looking up at me. "Scared I'd ruin everything. Scared I'd—" She hesitated, then shook her head. "I don't know. I just didn't know if it was allowed." "I know," I said softly. "But sometimes rules don't matter when it feels right." Her hand found mine, fingers intertwining naturally. No hesitation, no fear, just the quiet acknowledgement of what had been brewing between us all along. We didn't rush. We didn't need to. There was a beauty in pacing ourselves, in letting every step toward each other be deliberate, messy, human. Over the next few days, we found our rhythm. Coffee in the mornings, small smiles in the hallways, shared silences that felt more intimate than words. Each glance, each accidental touch, was a promise we didn't need to voice aloud. We talked about past mistakes, the lives we'd led separately, the regrets that had haunted us. She told me about her ex, the marriage that had ended quietly, the life she'd built after that. I told her about the friends I'd lost, the loneliness I'd carried, the mistakes I'd made in trying to fit in. And in that exchange, we found understanding. Not perfection, not closure of every wound, but connection, the kind that doesn't erase the past but allows you to stand together despite it. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the rooftops, we stood on the landing of the stairwell, looking out over the city. Her hand found mine again, and for the first time, it wasn't tentative. "I think we can try," she said softly. "We already are," I replied, smiling. Her head tilted slightly toward mine, shy, unguarded. I leaned closer, brushing my forehead against hers, and felt the warmth that had drawn me in from the very beginning. Rules, fears, complications, they still existed, but they were ours to navigate together. And as the city lights blinked awake below us, I realized something simple, undeniable. Some things are worth breaking rules for. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next? Love letter if you want more slow burn, emotional romances like this. Subscribe now and don't miss the next story.